All right, so this talk's gonna be brief. I know it for sure. My phone's at 9%, but so yeah, I don't even know what I want to talk about specifically. I just slapped on a random picture to this podcast. It says if we continue to teach about tolerance and intolerance instead of good and evil, we will end up with tolerance of evil. I have no idea who quoted that. Well, it says the name of the quoter, the person that said it, but I don't know that person. I saw his comment I saw on YouTube. I thought it was interesting. So I guess I'll talk about potential, right? And just limiting words. Words that you when you use them, it limits you, such as I can't, I cannot do something. The moment you say you can't, it's finalized. When you say I can't, it means even if you have the capabilities of learning how to, you won't, because you don't believe. What you're basically saying, you're affirming your disbelief. And whatever you disbelieve, it'll never be a truth for as long as your mind rejects what could be true for your life. People that have anxiety, people that have depression, people that think that their last 20 years has to look like the next 20 is going to look like the last 20. And although there's something that they can do about it, for as long as they don't believe, they just won't, because they affirm their disbelief by saying I cannot. So I was thinking today, actually, one thing I thought was powerful is when you state your limitations, to use the word yet at the end. Y-E-T, such a powerful powerful word. It means, yet, like I haven't arrived. I don't know yet, but it doesn't mean indefinitely, forever, until I die, that I'll never know. Like, it's one thing to say I can't be a millionaire, right? Versus I can't be a millionaire yet, or I don't know how to be a millionaire, versus I don't know how to be a millionaire yet. Like, the word yet shows that your willpower hasn't been completely wiped out and destroyed. The word yet means that, there's hope for you, because there's no hope for the person that says I cannot. A lot of times it turns into I will not, because people choose their presuppositions or whatever it is they currently believe and they cling to it so hard, in exchange, and instead of exchanging that for whatever might be wise. Sometimes depressed people are like, I can't be positive, or it's hard to be positive. And yeah, when life is falling apart, right, and someone comes around with wisdom or positivity, you might not have that luxury of denying everything that you're saying. I mean, you do have that luxury of saying no, of course, because, like, free will, right? But to your own detriment, to your own destruction, if you carry on living a life that you're not proud to live, that's bringing you down, that's making you feel down. What's up, Dean? What's up, bro? So, and that's why it's so powerful to say, I'll tell you this story. I was watching some rap battles with a good friend today, and you know and then we saw this one video specifically. It was called "When Things Go Wrong in Battle Rap," right? And people was getting real personal and stuff, and it was a lot of impulsive behavior. And I remember at a second, like what slipped out of me was, man, how come these people, why they act so crazy, man? What's wrong with them? But I know what makes people make their decisions. It's because they have a mindset that justifies their action. You know, and I remember my friend was telling me, yo, man, they can't control their behavior. They can't control their anger. You know, and I didn't think about this until later. I was like, it's not that they can't control it. It's that they haven't learned how yet. And people take, because they haven't learned something, as I can't learn how to. Of course you could learn something new. You know what I mean? Like, you was born into this world. Like, there was a time when you didn't know how to walk. You didn't know how to speak. You didn't know everything you know how to do now. You know how to be negative as hell. You were taught how to be that way by studying negative ass people around you and becoming a product of who they are. You know what I mean? And it is possible to get a new circle of friends. It is possible to cling on to positivity and wisdom and things that actually inspire you, instead of being a product of whatever it is you might be disgusted by. Isn't it fascinating that, a lot of kids, right? They hate the way they were parented, and then they grow up, have kids, and parent their kids in the same manner that they hated being parented. And then their kids have resentment towards them, and they don't understand the resentment and the hatred. They're like, "Where the hell does this come from? I'm just trying to do right by you, blah blah blah." But they forget that there was a time when they was a kid too, and they hated the way that their father spoke to them. But yet they're implementing that same behavior towards their, towards their kids. The same impulsive, whatever it is, like easily offended, and so anyways, getting back to the, like, what my friend said. He was like, yo, these people can't control their emotions. And like and it hit me till later, but I was like, yo, it's not everybody could, but there's a difference between what you can't do and what you haven't learned. You know what I mean? Sometimes people be like, yo, yeah, I was watching this video the other day by Jim Rohn, and he was like, could, should, don't, or could, should, won't. He was like, that's the formula for destruction. Like, if you could do something, if you should something, he said, if you could do something, if you should do something, but you don't do it. He says, if you don't do it, you might not be an idiot. No, maybe you're misinformed, or you just don't know any better. But if you won't do it, it might mean that you're arrogant, or that you're prideful, or you just, you're resisting change. And he was like, that's the key to formula. That's the formula to destruction if you want to grow as a person. You know what I mean? So anyways, life seems to be this constant battle between who we think we are and transcending to the person that we want to be. Something on a side note, something I noticed is a lot of people don't like when you challenge their mediocrity, because they enjoy living there. They like being, it's comfortable, their comfort zone, that's where everything is smooth, and but they don't know who they could be, right? And they don't know that everything that they want in life is outside of their comfort zone. Like, why so many people have a victim mentality? They've had it for so long, and first of all, they've learned that from other people. Second of all, it's easy to be there. Having a victim mentality is easier than taking on responsibilities and not blaming the white man for whatever it is, and not blaming this and blaming that. You know what I mean? And instead of realizing, yo, it's 2018 and the internet doesn't care what I look like. There's so many people making millions of dollars. How come I can't be one? You know what I mean? Regardless of how the white man feels about me, or how racist people are being, or how messed up people are being. You know what I mean? And then we get consumed by, like, how people are acting. So I'm gonna tell you, I'm gonna jump into it. I'm jumping all over the place in this podcast, but I'm gonna tell you another story, right? I was in a PlayStation party, right? And I remember I had to go for a second, and I came back, and two of my friends were talking to each other, a girl and a boy, right? They were playing some Truth or Dare thing, right? What's up, Iris? So they were playing Truth or Dare, and as they were playing Truth or Dare, I think the guy, if I'm not mistaken, dared her to send him a nude photograph of herself, right? And she was like, "Oh, I'm not playing that game," and he got mad, right? Because he feels like, if you're gonna play Truth or Dare, then when someone gives you a dare, you should be willing to go all the way, I guess. So he had an expectation that was failed, which led to his anger, which led to him cursing her out, calling her a B word, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, just mocking her and stuff. And I felt her pain in that moment. I was like, man, I know how she feels right now. And she was the host of the room, right? So I knew she was about to kick him out. I just felt it. And then he was like, "Oh, go ahead, kick me out, bitch. Like, I know you're going to. I know you're going to do that. Like, but whatever, you're a bitch, just so you know." And like, just being super negative and stuff. And then she kicked him out. And then yeah, I know she was really upset by that behavior, The reason I talk about not being offended so much is because I know that in that moment she felt violated. But if everything violates her, she's going to be emotionally checked out, right? And then if other people need her services, other people need her kindness, she's emotionally unavailable, because life is so damn harsh that we're being molded by the injustice instead of learning how to overcome. And when you don't learn how to overcome, it's to the detriment of the people around you. All the goodness that you could have been sharing, you don't even feel compelled to share. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like, personally, like, I'm so excited to be alive that if someone calls me at 2:30 in the morning, sometimes I might just, like, impulsively turn my phone off, right? Or not turn it off, like, put it on mute and go back to sleep. But sometimes I wake up half conscious, like, not really realizing that I'm doing that. But it will never disturb me that someone woke me up out of my sleep because they needed something. Because I don't value sleep more than people. You know what I mean? And because of that, like I'm perfectly cool with someone waking me up, you know? And I know a lot of people feel differently about that. Like sleep is like sacred to a lot of people, right? But anyways, so back to the story, right? When she felt violated by this guy, what she doesn't understand is she's dealing with the mediocre version of himself, right? Her issues is not with him, right? Because the person he was created to be transcends beyond who he is currently, like way beyond. He just doesn't realize that. This is why when I meet people that are completely out of their minds, I don't take them personal because I know that God created everybody to be amazing people, you know? I don't think there's one person breathing, regardless of how they act now, currently, you know? And I still believe he's a good dude. You might be like, yo, how can he be a good dude when he violated her like that, called her a B word? You know what I mean? He asked her for a nude photograph. It's because I know that's not him. That's who he is currently. But there's multiple versions of yourself. You know what I mean? This is about to get real like nerdy in a second. But there's who you are now, right? There's who you are tomorrow. There's who you are in 10 weeks. There's who you are a year from now. And there's who you are in 1 decade, 2 decades, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, right? So all of these are versions of you, right? And, you know, when people dwell in their mediocrity, they're extending it. They're extending that for like 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, you know? They're going to stay the same person forever, you know? You might wonder why that is. Like people choose comfort, you know what I mean? Typically, they'll choose whatever's comfortable, whatever's easier, you know? One thing I talk about a lot, like I know this bothers a lot of people. You're like, yo, how come people talk about me behind my back? Like, why? It's because it's more comfortable. Whatever's easier to do, that becomes the method of engagement people choose, right? They choose to behave in that manner because it's easier. It's easier to talk about you behind your back than it is to confront you personally about whatever they dislike. Multiple reasons. People don't like confrontation. Maybe they don't want to get agitated. Maybe they feel like having a conversation with you, it's going to be agitating. So it's easier to find a bunch of people that don't like you and they don't like you either. So they could collaborate on their ideas and about what makes you a despicable person. And you might be like, yo, but that's stupid though. Like they shouldn't be doing that, you know? And I talk about this a lot too, how, you know, we obsess over what should and shouldn't be, you know, because I agree with, I understand what you're saying. Like, yeah, maybe somebody shouldn't talk about me badly for 10 hours out of their day. But the reason I think they shouldn't do that, it wouldn't be because I feel violated. It would be because I don't think that's a good use of their time because they're going to die one day and they don't want to accumulate a lot of wasted hours into gossiping about people that they don't like their whole life. And then at the end of life, they stand before God and nothing is accomplished besides the gossip that they spread, besides the rumors that they, you know what I'm saying? It's just, so if I ever felt like, man, people shouldn't do that, it's like, it's not because I care to have an opinion about what somebody should be doing, but more about like, man, what are you doing with your life, dude? Like, you know, what are your goals? You know, you must not have any since you have time to do that all day. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I just want people to accomplish stuff. You know what I mean? I want people to find out their purpose, to find, yo, life is so limited. You know what I mean? Like it's so short. One of my best friends died at 24. He died on a Friday. I know he had his Saturday planned out. Died on a Friday. And I'm sure he had more than his Saturday planned out. I don't know if he had any idea that that was his last day. Went to work, never came home, you know what I mean? And he probably had the next 5 years, 10 years planned out and died at 24. It's crazy, man. Really good dude. He taught me some good things. We had a lot of good memories. So yeah, anyways, in reference to the story I just told, right? How the girl felt violated by the guy that cursed her out. I don't know if she believes that she's sensitive or that she's always going to be like feel bad when people mistreat her, you know what I mean? But I know one thing. Once you truly understand that, yo, people don't know who they are and that's why they live a life less than, it helps. It helps to cope, you know what I mean? Like every time someone's foul to me, you know what goes through my mind? Instantly, I'm like, yo, maybe they got raped. Maybe their mother died this morning. Maybe their dad died yesterday. Like, I think about the most extreme scenarios because it helps me to understand what a person could be going through, right? That would make them act in such a way. Usually our mind doesn't take us there. Usually our mind takes us to a place where it's like, I don't give a shit what you're going through. How dare you try to disrespect me like that? Like, regardless of what you're going through, get your emotions in check and come at me correctly if you're going to come at me, right? That's usually how we respond. Why? Because we're alive for ourselves. Things have to pass through our permission, right? And we have all these rules of how life should be and shouldn't be. So much so that our rules for what should be matter more than people. And when your rules for what should be matter more than people, this is why it's easy to be annoyed by them. You know what I mean? When you meet people, you have your ideas of how people should behave, how they should act, how they should interpret the world, how they should blah, 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 right? But for every rule that you have, there's millions of people that live a life other than what your rule is. You know what I mean? And some people come to the conclusion, if I meet a bunch of people that I can't agree with, then the conclusion is to just fight with them continuously, because there is no conversation if we have no common grounds. But here's the common ground that we all have. You know, everyone's a human being. Like, I'm sure we such a basic statement, but you know, usually we see differences first, right? Usually we see someone, my bad, my thing stopped for a second. And we see that before we see anything else. But people are human before they are anything else. Like, you're human before you are your nationality. You know what I mean? Before you're Dominican, right? You're human. Before you're Spanish or whatever, like national pride you have, whatever, before your language that you speak, the one thing that interconnects all of us is we're humans. So that could be the common ground, right? You know, and but instead, our minds, when we meet people, it's always, man, what makes you different than me? And we focus on differences. We focus on how things shouldn't be constantly, which is a barrier to our love for people. And then we get weakened by other people, because the more people we don't love, the more people that we're positioned to be annoyed by, frustrated by, you know, always in a bad mood because of, and all of a sudden now the way we feel is someone else's fault, even though they don't create our expectations, we create them. You know, and if you create your expectations, that means you have everything to do with your frustration, and you have everything to do with possibly eliminating it. You know, if you ever realize that, you know, you're the creator of what you think should be, you know, so therefore, when people violate these things, it's not because they're violating your rules that you're mad. It's because you have rules in the first place, and your rules are transcend above people, right? And that by itself, man, it could lead to all types of evil things. Like, I think I told you the story before. I know a guy, his wife had like a broken foot. Christian dude pulled up to the store, sent her to the store by herself. She has a shopping cart on the left hand. She has crutches, right? She has one crutch under her right armpit, shopping cart in the left hand, hopping on one foot, trying to figure out how she's going to go grocery shopping by herself. You might be like, yo, what the hell would possess a man? What would possess a dude to think that that's rational? Offense, man. Like, being offended. I remember he said, yo, when the kids want something to eat, you know, like, you're so ready to give them food. You're so ready to like give them coffee, whatever they need. All of a sudden, if I need something, all of a sudden your leg is broken and you don't want to do anything and you want to sit back down. So he was like, because you want to act that way, right? You could go to the store with your broken leg, or her leg wasn't broken, by the way. It was like sprained or something, but she had crutches nonetheless. So he was like, you know, you could figure out shopping by yourself. The reason that action, I know that action sounds despicable. The reason it's justifiable in his mind, not to me. To me, of course, it's not justifiable, but it's justifiable to him. And that dictates the pace of the way he responds to life, you know, his actions. Mindset dictates action, you know. It's the governing force behind everybody's actions is the mindset they have that makes their current actions permissible. So anyways, so the reason that was justifiable is because he felt like, yo, well, I feel violated. I feel like my needs have not been met. I feel like you did this against me. And now I'm going to punish you for doing this to me, because punishment is what you deserve. And maybe this will be a lesson so that you know not to do this to me again. And if God had that mentality, then he'd be a basket case. And it would mean that the only reason God created humans is because he's desperate for a friend, so lonely, and he desperately needs you to do the right thing so that he could emotionally be stable, so that he could have a good day, because his day is not good unless you're doing the things that you're supposed to do, which sounds foolish when you put that behavior on God, because it's like, he's the most emotionally stable person ever. You know, he's not falling apart just because people are living a life less than. Of course, he's not excited about people not embracing their potential. Of course, you know, he's trying to woo people's hearts and encourage them to be more than what they are at the moment. Of course, like that's what he wants, but he's not falling apart if it doesn't happen that way. And then putting all these restrictions on people, right? And making them jump through hoops to prove that they love him so that they could, that's crazy. Yo, my thing keeps acting up. Yo, so for those of you that believe in God, how many of you ever heard this from the Lord, you know? It's been 10 months, maybe 15 months of you willfully sinning, willfully doing the wrong thing. You come back to the Lord in church or whatever. It could even be an encounter in your own room, and you're like, God, I've been willfully ignorant, willfully whatever it is, right? And you're like, I'm ready to like turn my life over to you, and I'm done doing the wrong thing. And who's ever heard this from the Lord, where He's like, oh, it's you, like, you know, what the hell do you want? Like for the last 15 months, I've been trying to get your attention, but you seem to not listen, and you hurt me. Not only did you hurt me, you hurt your mother, you hurt your father, you hurt everybody else. And I've sent multiple people to come talk to you, and you don't want to hear anything they have to say. Now all of a sudden you want to be my friend. Now all of a sudden you want a relationship with me. You see how this language sounds very familiar? This is the way we speak to each other. Like, yo, so now you want to be friends. You know what I mean? Like, yo, the girl I wrote 18 songs about, right? I've never felt more emotional pain from any person other than her, you know? Even though I'm the root cause of my emotional pain. Like, I no longer believe that it's her fault, and that's why I'm liberated from the feeling. Yo, when shit is other people's fault, it's such a terrible feeling, you know? When you being offended is someone else's fault, you feel like someone owes you something. You feel like they have to, you know, repent. You feel like they have to like come to you and do something to change your emotion. You know, and what I notice about people is those that can't control their emotions will try to control the actions of other people. This is why freedom of speech is under attack right now, because people are sensitive towards what's being said, and they think that people have to not be so harsh with their words in order for their day to go better. So that's the only reason they're trying to pass these laws, because they think passing these laws will make their life easier. Why? Because they're alive for themselves, and things have to go through their permission. Like, you know what I mean? Life is miserable when you have a rule book of like 1,000 things that absolutely needs to be that way, or else you throw a temper tantrum. You know, there's no peace in that place. You know, so for me personally, I threw out that list completely. I used to have a lot of things that I think people should do, such as respond to my text message accordingly, or like at a convenient time, or like, you know what I mean? And then now it's just like, yo, man, you do what you prefer to do, whatever. And I just find it my absolute duty to love people where they're at, right? And just know that they're capable of more, even if they choose a life less than and choose mediocrity. And I find it my duty to not be frustrated at people that use their free will in a way that should or should not be. Because who the hell am I to ultimately to tell somebody I'm nobody's mother, I'm nobody's father, you know what I mean? Like, I could encourage you. We could have these conversations, right? But I have zero interest in telling somebody who they should be. I have more interest in becoming a walking example of what people could be, right? And through people watching me, you know, through osmosis, like they just learn by watching me, by studying me. They'll see, you know, they'll be able to take things that I do or say and incorporate it into their life, right? Or try, man, I heard Rob say this one thing. Let me take this one part he said in this one podcast. Let me apply it to my life and see if it works, you know? Like, I'm sure this is probably happening, you know? I don't know. I have like 900 friends on here. I don't know how many lives I'm changing. I've had a couple people come up to me and be like, yo, the stuff you do is doing wonders for me. But those are only the few that actually spoke up. I have no idea if it's 25 other people that just, they're listening, but just from a distance, lives are being transformed. You know what I mean? Like, recently, man, I had somebody crying, pouring his heart out the other day. He was like, dude, I admire you. Like, everybody hates me. No one wants to be around me. You know, you seem to fix everything. It seems like all I do is destroy things, you know? This is a guy, I remember one time, he was like, I interrupted him, right? In the act of him being mean to his friends. Like, I stopped him right there, and I was trying to tell him, dude, like, do you realize what you're doing? Like, the emotions that you're stirring up inside of people by being a certain way, like, you know? And he instantly stopped me to tell me, hey, you can't change me, you can't fix me. So I'm like, all right, you know, like, I just left it at that. I didn't get mad that he did that. I was like, all right, you know. Less than 2 months later, the same dude comes to me, he's crying, he's like, yo, nobody likes me, and here's some of his philosophies, right? That brought destruction into his life. He thinks it's okay to try to control people, but he says, I'll be damned if somebody try to control me, but I don't mind doing it to other people. And it's like, why is it okay to control others, but you don't want it to, when you don't want it to be done to you, that should be an indicator that it's not correct to do it to others, right? I don't know, like, love your neighbor as yourself, right? Like, I don't know, but it's like, give me a second. Let me see something real quick. I apologize. People are crazy, man. I read my notification. Somebody said, "Yo, fuck God, hail Lucifer." It's like, yo, come on, son. But I don't know. What's wrong with people? No idea. They have a mindset that makes their actions permissible. That's what's wrong with them. So, anyways, yo, so where was I at? I was saying some shit. I forgot. Um, I pray to God I remember because I really don't know. Um, what was I saying? Yeah, I don't know, man. Anyways, having there's many ways to look at the world, right? There's not many ways to look at it optimally, right? There's not many correct ways of looking at the world. You might be like, how do I know if my view of the world is correct? Well, look at what your view of the world does to you, to your spirit, to your soul, to your mentality. Like when you start thinking a certain way, pay attention, pay close attention, right? Because we hold other people's imperfections under a magnifying glass, to so much scrutiny in a way that we might not do to ourselves. Like, yeah, we probably do beat ourselves up a lot, but we're very crucial on other people and setting the bar for other people. Man, if we only had that same interest in setting the bar for ourselves and trying to be better versions of ourselves, man, like, I'm not sure if people would be as messed up as they are if people cared to be better. You know what I mean? If they cared more about the betterment of themselves rather than other people. And sometimes we hear that, we make that out to be a selfish thing, you know? But people benefit when you become the best version of yourself. Because if I'm out here, right? If I'm out here trying to adjust every single human being and I'm doing nothing to become the best version of myself, I get looked at as a hypocrite. My words have no weight, no power. I'm not influential because people see me for, yeah, you preach a good word, dude, but how much of what you preach do you embody into your character? How much of what you say is actually you? You know what I mean? And it just sounds like fancy words, and people will dismiss it as a good performance, but not actually as something that I believe in. Because I don't think what people believe, when it comes to what people believe, right? I don't think people believe what they claim they believe. I think they believe what they act out. Whatever you act out in your interpersonal relationships every day, that's what you believe. Your actions. We act out our beliefs. So much more than what we claim. Because you could claim anything, man. How many Christian people claim they're Christians and they seem like the devil himself? I'm sure a lot of you know exactly what I'm talking about. People make claims all day. There's a scripture in the Bible that says they honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me, which means these people claim they know me, but they have no idea who I am. They have no relationship with me. What's crazy about the Bible, right? There's a scripture, I don't know where exactly, I forget, but it's like, it says something like, people are like trying to get into heaven, right? And God is telling them, depart from me, I never knew you. And these people are talking about their good works. They're like, did we not cast out demons in your name? Did we not heal the sick in your name? Did we not do these righteous things in your name? And he's like, yo, just depart from me, I never knew you. I think the reason that is because they took the things that look Christian and they let that take the place of actually having a personal relationship with God. You know what I mean? Because, like, I think it's impossible to know God for real without being transformed by him. And it's impossible to be transformed by him without knowing him. You know what I mean? And yeah, man. So there was just a bunch of people that was like, yo, but we did this, God. We did this in your name. We did that in your name. And when he says, depart from me, I never knew you, it's probably because none of his character was embodied into these people. They were religious people, not Christian people. There's a difference between Christian people and religious people, because religious people are not Christian and Christian people are not religious. A religious person, when you do something wrong, they are on your ass all day and maybe all year, constantly reminding you of how you fail and you're below the bar, below your potential, below what you could be. You know what I mean? Reminding you of how much of a mess up you are, screw up you are. A Christian person, like, yeah, I'm not saying to turn a blind eye to every bad thing you do, but man, I've only met like, I'd say three or four people that in my heart, like they feel like what a Christian should be, right? And it's just a different feeling. I remember the feeling around these people. I always wanted to be around them, always wanted to talk to them, always wanted to call them. It was just different. Religious people I never wanted to be next to because they're professional fault finders, you know? They've trained their mind to find fault in every scenario and just to see what's wrong with you. And that could be pestering after some time. It's like they study that so much, and it seems like they're doing it with selfish intent. This is why their words are not received, because we think the only reason they're trying to change us is because if we become better people, their life gets easier, but not because they give a damn about our soul or not because they care about where we go when we die, but just because I need to adjust you, because if you change, my life could change. I used to live with somebody who thought if I had a job, his life would be better. I don't know. It's weird what your mind rationalizes. I guess because he was so miserable at his job, he thought, hey, if Rob's miserable at his job, then maybe I'll feel better about my misery if he's, and maybe that wasn't even his mindset or the way he thought. But it just bothered him that when he came back from his job, I was just home, like doing nothing, just chilling. Because he hated his job so much, and probably hated it so much that maybe he started to have hatred towards people that don't have a job. And it's like, dude, and then that's, it's like, and this is when minding your business, right, is actually very healthy. I want to talk to you about an emotion really quick, right? It's called apathy. Apathy is the ability to not give a damn. Such a useful emotion if you know how to correctly use it. Most people misuse it in a way that they don't give a damn about anything, not other people, themselves, their mother, or nothing. And that's apathy used wrong. Apathy used correctly, in my opinion, is when you care about everything that's meaningful and you don't care about anything that isn't. Such as, what does it matter to you that you have a job and somebody else is on Section 8 public housing for 85 years, taking advantage of the system? And yeah, I get here's the only reason why I think that would suck, because I don't think that has nothing to do with their potential. Like, there's so much, they're above that. But that's what they settle for because that's where they're comfortable, and they have a mindset that makes that acceptable to them. So they stay there, and people like comfort. So I know why people stay there. But there's people that dwell and complain about that because they have to work and other people get their stuff for free. But my question to those of you that don't know how to mind your business, how is it what other people get for free, or how easy another man's life is? What the hell does that have to do with you? It's not your life, bro. And the more you criticize how your life should have been easier, let me tell you about you stealing your own joy, right? The biggest problem men have ever had is themselves. But the biggest problem we think we have is other people, right? And comparison is the thief of joy. If you want to steal your own joy, you got to do one thing: compare your life to other people. Compare your life to how hard it's been for you, how easy it's been for somebody else, how easy the white man has it and how hard your life is, how hard it is to deal with racism and how oppressed you are versus other nationalities. You know what I mean? And it's like, all you could do is carry your cross, carry your burden. You know what I mean? That's what the cross is symbolic of. Like, yes, there's malevolence in the world. Yes, there's evil. But how do we deal with this evil? We pick up our cross and continue moving forward. We tackle more responsibilities because there's nothing else that you can do, right? Besides sit there and dwell about how negative it is. But the more you dwell, the more you're impacted by how negative it is. And then your light gets put out. And whatever light you was meant to shine into the world, it won't get shined because, you're being distracted by things that are not your business. You know what I mean? Like what somebody else is doing with their life. So yeah, man, this dude hated his job a lot to the point that he thought his life would be easier if I had a job. And maybe if I at least was doing something. I don't know what it made him feel to come home and see me doing nothing, but yeah, I don't know. And I just think differently from a lot of people, like some of you, if you had roommates, I've been in a situation where I was about to have a couple of roommates, but some of them didn't agree with me having a government check. of like $600 or whatever, right? So they didn't agree with that. It was like, yo, you should work. The only reason men believe that other men should work is because that's all they know, and it seems like to be rooted in all human behavior to like really like tell people that, hey, you should be this way because this is what I know. You know what I mean? And I've learned how to wire my brain to just talk to you differently. Um, the only time you should take anything that I say, and if it's valuable, right? If it brings you value and you think it could change your life, sure, adopt that philosophy. But if everything I say is a bunch of bullshit, don't take anything I'm saying. You know what I mean? Like seriously, I don't believe because I'm a certain way you should do anything. I don't think you're obligated to do anything besides die eventually. That's I don't know any other obligation besides you dying and getting judged by God. You know what I mean? I really struggle to think of things that people are obligated to do. Because I struggle to think of things that people are obligated to do, this is why I'm not like, yo, all men should work or all people should this or all, like, yo, what are your obligations? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like, of course I would love people to become the best version of themselves. But, the crazy thing about life is, uh, what's up, Julianne? What's up, Timothy? What's up, Kelvin? The crazy thing about life is people could walk away from their potential, right? They could live a mediocre life. I mean, they can, I'm not saying that it's right, but I'm saying it's within their options to do so. Sometimes people use their free will in a way that annoys you, you know, but what you don't get is the more you're annoyed by people, right? The more when you speak to people about them wasting their own potential, you're going to speak to them with such a patronizing, condescending attitude because in your mind, when they're not around, you're probably saying some vicious stuff. And a lot of that's going to come out in your tonality, in the way you speak to them, just your energy, man. It's going to radiate negativity when you're next to the people that offend you because they're living a life less than, because they're, whatever it is they're doing, they're so agitating to you, which is probably none of your business, right? And you probably don't even care about the people you're correcting. You're probably just doing it because whatever reason, I know a lot of Christian people who the only reason they preach the gospel is because there's one scripture in the Bible that says they're accountable for every person that they could have gave the truth to, but they didn't. So they don't want to be held accountable by God. And that's why they preach the gospel. Not because they give a damn about the people they're preaching it to, and not because they care to do that. There's a lot of obligated Christians. An obligated Christian is a person who goes to church and tries to please the Lord because they don't want to go to hell. And that's the only reason why, you know. But how liberating is it when you're not obligated, right? When you do it because you want to. You'll have so much impact on people's life serving God because you want to, rather than, well, if I don't serve God, I go to hell and I don't want that. So I'm going to haphazardly serve God and have zero impact. And you know what I mean? And people don't understand their motives, their motives. They don't see their own motives because people don't spend as much time self-reflecting as they do casting stones at other people's life. You know what I mean? At other people, like what they're doing. Another thing I'll talk about, I was in a group the other day, right? Text group, and I was posting a lot of philosophical, motivational quotes. One guy took a lot of offense to that. I don't know if any of those quotes was personally attacking his mediocrity, because this guy is like, he's choosing to live a life less than, like he insults a lot of people. He's rude. He's a lot of different things, right? But I thought it was crazy that, the quotes bothered him so much. It's like, bro, like if I'm saying a bunch of stuff you don't agree with, or if everything I'm saying is a subjective opinion, then go the other direction. Do what you prefer to do. Like, why the hell are people so insecure? You know what I realized in life? Cause I used to spend a lot of my time reminding people that I have free will because they used to speak to me in a way where it's like, yo, I don't have to listen to you. I don't have to. If I have to remind you that I don't have to listen to you, it's me who's forgotten that. Not you, you know what I mean? Like if I'm comfortable in knowing that I have free will, once you know you have free will for real, you'll never feel pressured by people. Even if they have a pressure type personality, or even if they are condescending, patronizing, it won't be about their tonality, right? Because you know in your head, well, if I don't like what you're saying, I could just not do it, right? And it's just so much peace in that place when you don't feel like someone's pushing you into a corner. A lot of times you only feel as pushed into a corner as you tell yourself that you are, as you tell yourself that that's what it is, and then your mind makes it real, even if it's not. You know what I mean? So this person, I don't know if he felt condemned, or I don't know if he felt judged, or that wasn't the purpose behind me posting all these philosophical, motivational quotes. I was posting it because it's a bunch of stuff I believe in that's changed my life, and it's done wonders for me. It was a group full of like 99 people in there. And I know there was somebody who could have read it who probably could have benefited from it, you know? So that was my only motivation. But when you listen to be offended, you'll be offended whenever listening, you know? If you listen to be offended, everything you hear is offensive. You got to be careful how you hear and how you hear what people are saying. You know what I mean? Like there's been times when I remember one time my mom was driving, right? And she what you call it? She made a right turn and I was like, "Oh, like what made you do that? Like the GPS didn't say to go that way, you know?" And then she got instantly agitated. She was like, "Oh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know." I was like, and then it hit me. I'm like, yo, she probably thinks that I'm talking to her like she's a complete idiot. So let me ask her that. I was like, Mom, do you think I'm talking to you like you're an idiot or like you're stupid or something? She was like, yeah, well, that's how I feel like you're doing. So whether or not that's what my intention to make her feel doesn't even matter. What matters is if her mind tells her that's what it is, it becomes real, even if it's not. You know what I mean? Like, even if that's not nowhere near my intention, her interpretation becomes what I'm actually saying. Most people don't care what you're actually saying. They care what their interpretation is of what you're saying, because their interpretation is what you're saying. You know what I mean? So I've learned I got to communicate in a way that you're going to interpret what I'm trying to say in the way that I want it to be delivered, right? And everyone has different ways of interpreting. So I got to be adaptable to people, right? Like I was thinking about this one text message the other day, right? Where some girl, I remember I sent her like 3 voice clips, right? Each of these voice clips were 3 minutes. 1 week later, she comes back to me with excuses as to why she couldn't hear them, right? And I wasn't trying to like put her in her place. None of that. Like I was just telling her, because she came to me like, hey, sorry, I haven't heard your voice clips yet. I'll get to them eventually, blah, 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 you know? But I did tell her, I did tell her like, I'm not interested in her excuses, not in those exact words, but basically saying that because people, you know, like people come to you with bull crap all the time. Like if I send you a video, I'm not interested in when you're going to watch it. I'm much more interested in after you watch it, what's your reaction to the video? Do you like the content? Was it a waste of your time? Like, is it, what do you think? Like that I care about, you know what I mean? Like a lot of times people, like you'll pour your heart out on a text message or you'll send something, you'll say something, right? And they go to Hawaii for like 3 weeks. You know, they come back, you know, the message is on read, and then they come back to you with an excuse as to why they couldn't get to it sooner. It's like, yeah, all right. But like now that you're here, like, do you want to respond to that? Or do you want to just give me bullshit excuses as to why you couldn't do something that you're perfectly capable of doing right now? And we do that because we think people are more interested in our excuses than people are interested in continuing a conversation that happened 3 weeks ago that actually had meaning to the person sending the message. You know what I mean? Like, so that's why, and I know that so deeply, right? That's why if I ever don't get back to somebody, the first thing that I say to you, I promise you, it won't be an excuse as to why it took so damn long. The first thing I say to you is going to be a direct response to whatever's been said if I feel like having that conversation. Now, there's a lot of people that say things that I don't feel like responding to. Like, it's just not worth my time. Some people think that you should respond to them no matter what, whether they send you an exclamation mark or a freaking period or a question mark. Like anything that's sent to you should be replied to. And I think that's false. Like, you know what I mean? I think if it's not a good use of your time replying to something, right? Like, cause you guys know the type, right? That they always need something, always need something. Every time you see them, they need $20, right? Eventually that person texting you, even if they say, hey, how you doing? There's something in your mind that tells you they probably need $20 again. Because the last 50 times they asked you how you're doing, the very next question was, yo, you got $20, right? And the people that are needy like that, they don't know how much of an emotional liability they're being, or to you, right? They don't know what a burden that could be, right? Because you might not always tell people how you feel. Now, from their perspective, they might be like, whoa, if you got a problem with me borrowing money all the time, you should just tell me that. People don't tell you half of what they actually feel. People just feel a lot of the times and go on continuously feeling for like years and sometimes just blow up out of nowhere. You know, I think a lot more people are passive aggressive than they are, you know, just straightforward. And I understand why, you know. I used to get mad at all these things. Now that I understand, there's so much peace in my heart. People are passive aggressive and they won't say exactly how they feel because it's easier. Like I said earlier, whatever's easier, people tend to do, you know. For the people that make $10,000 a month, Um, Give me a second. What's up? What's up? You need something? Okay. So for the people making like $1 million a month, 10,000, whatever, they get asked all the time, is it easy? You know, like all the time, people are gonna be like, "Yo, how easy is it?" And I forgot where I was going with this. Get out, yo, get out. Nah, can you get out, please? Seriously, yo, I said get out. Can you get out, Victor? I'm not gonna tell you again.
Okay, I'm playing.
All right, thank you. I actually gotta go. I don't want to hear it later. Tell me later. Tell me later. Tell me later. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get out. Why don't you listen? Get out. My bad, y'all. Yo, actually, I'm gonna finish this like in the next podcast. Probably like I don't even know where I was going with the last thing I was saying. But anyways, yeah. So I hope I gave some type of value, and see you on the next one, man. Take care.